You also see more Martian motifs too. This is Sidon. This is supposedly a guy who was born on Crete. He's being suckled from a canine. And Cydonia is also known as Cana because it was Canaan, who was Ham's son, who actually was the father of Sidon. Then you go to Mars. You go to Rome, who actually, the Romans, according to the historian Livy, said they really did consider themselves sons of Mars, and they're also being suckled by a wolf or a canine. And notice this shepherd here, who's kind of helping things along with his pointy hat, magician hat. He knows what's going on. It says Rome here. It says Cydonia here. It's just a variation on the word Sidon. They're Canaanites or Sidonians. And the reason that Cana is an important place is because that's the location where the Watchers came down. The sons of Mars, being suckled on the milk of knowledge. Richard Hoagland has talked extensively about tetrahedral geometry and the Cydonia monuments. And he talks about it existing as that hallmark, that stamp that says there's intelligent design to it because it incorporates dimensionless constants in mathematics, things that don't depend on a numerical system. They just exist with any numerical system. And that's this tetrahedral signature here. It's just angles. So if you measure your circles in 33 or 55 or 360, you're still going to have this signature proportionally. And also pi is one of those great symbols too for actually ascertaining whether there's intelligence on a planet other than ours or some signal that's coming from outer space like SETI does. They both pay attention to these 2 points. And pi is that one number that we know of that really does symbolize a circle. It's almost magical. But these 2 things are incorporated interchangeably and together on Cydonia. It connects Mars to the Earth because there are many similarities when you go back to the ancient knowledge and how it's purveyed. Pi is everything when it comes to the compass that measures circles. If you know pi, then you know how to make circles and understand circles. So what if you were going to take the 33 points on the compass rose and actually be really literal about placing a line on the Earth where it would actually exist? Here's latitude, 33.3 degrees from 0, 2,012 nautical miles. Now take that 33 1/3 times pi. You'll come up with this. Well, it really seems like maybe this is latitude. This is latitude. Maybe this is longitude. So now you got the 2 points that you need to figure out where you are in space on the Earth. Guess where it is. I really think that this has something to do with why what happened in 1947 happened here. Because if you're working with SETI and you actually saw an equation that pointed this out and then something happened here, you would have your smoking gun for the proof that something from outer space had been communicating with you that was intelligent enough to be able to, well, communicate. There's only one place on the planet that's associated with this connection of heaven to earth, and that's right in Roswell. Here, it's on top of a Tibetan plateau. So the Roswell coordinates, longitude and latitude, are a function of pi. It goes backward and forward. You can multiply the latitude times pi and get the longitude, divide longitude by pi and get the latitude. Now there's more to that equation than even just pi. Leviathan itself, if you actually would look at the letters in the Hebrew, they equal numbers. And these numbers added together come up with a number here that is actually a function of pi 2, and the number of days. Symbolically, it's actually saying it's a cycle. Our days are measured actually as we go around the sun in a complete circuit, and pi is the measurement or the symbol of that circuit. It's saying it's a connection, and it's interesting because the language here actually means a connected serpent, and the numbers say the same thing. It's a function of time. And so if you take all this together, the dimensions of the Earth in nautical miles, 21,600, and you divide it by 33, you'll get a symbol, a number that's actually close to what the aeon is. You just have to move the decimal place over 1. And it's because this number is so versatile, so powerful, that it's revered. It's also, simultaneously, it connects time to space, it connects heaven to earth, it connects Mars to earth, it connects us to the divine through what's going on in Jerusalem, or what went on in Jerusalem and what will go on in Jerusalem. But you take all these numbers and you can actually create an equation here. Take the distance around the earth in nautical miles, divide it by 33.33, the most sacred number according to the illuminated fraternities. You get the number of the quaternary of the procession. Divide that by 19.47, you get exactly the place where I believe the Roswell crash happened in latitude. Multiply this by pi, and you get the longitude exactly. It works in a mirror sort of image. You can continue to write this equation in the circle. As you take this equation and actually plot it on a map, you see that here's the beginning of 33 degrees, and here's the end of 33 degrees where it actually would become latitude 34. So this is the only line that I would actually plot. And it's a function of pi in each little point. And the very middle here is where this equation works. It's actually telling us something, and it seems to be warning us about a point in the future. Here's a map with a star plotted there for you if you want to actually go out there. I left that there for some strange reason. So I guess I was trying to get out here. And so this is what Roswell says geometrically. There's even more to it than that, because there's actually a suggestion that it's connected to the birthday of our own country. Of course, it's in America, but I looked into that too. And it comes into sort of a spooky range, a kind of a, well, let's say an esoteric sort of theurgic range of math, because by just playing with this decimal point, you can actually get the longitude of the Roswell event, the crash place. Just move the decimal plate over and put a 0 there, and divide it into 1776. And you can continue by putting these other symbols, these other geometric signatures in a line here. But what's interesting is our symbol by choice is the eagle. And if you look at the history and the actual genesis of this symbol, it was originally not, as Benjamin Franklin said, an eagle. It was a phoenix. I think that maybe these illuminated founders of our country had a lot going for them when they looked at what we were doing in perspective of the future. I think they understood what the phoenix represented. I think they understand this time cycle. I think they were looking forward to the future. I think a future that is ours. Now, you can connect these equations, and I could stay in this little frame for way too long, so I won't. You get the idea. You also get the motif of the phraseology that's repeated over and over again. The compass rose is what you use to navigate in earth, to know where you're connected under heaven. The rose cross, which is another symbol of this idea of having a connection with heaven. And then, of course, rose well, which may be a stretch, but, you know, water is something that roses need to grow. And, of course, in Hebrew, if your head is a rosh, if you need to live, you need water. To learn, you need to fill your head. But it's also a function of a geometric system of understanding time. And if we understand time, we can understand the future and what the divine is all about and what the divine's plans are. By the way, the actual name for Ezekiel's wheel was Galgalim, which incorporates the same idea here, Galgal, with Golgotha, the head, the crossbones, and you have this symbol that goes in between here, the cross that actually connects the 4 points of the zodiac, the cardinal points. Now I get into something that's heavier. Everyone, I think, if they connect 2012 to prophecy, will understand that there's something to do with the Mayan calendar. This is actually the sunstone. It's an Aztec calendar that they borrowed from the Maya. It was buried by the Spanish in Tenochtitlan and not discovered for maybe 200 years. It's about 12 feet across. It's huge. Weighs about 5 tons. They buried it, and then it was rediscovered in the 1700s, and interestingly enough, you can actually, not the 1700s, don't quote me on this, but you can actually see here that they've recorded these 4 little destructive epochs on the earth. Each one of these represents 6,480 years in between each one, and a destructive epoch. One by flood, one by fire, one by animals or something, and there's one by earthquakes. And there's one left, because the calendar ends here. It just so happens that we know now what that's all about when it comes to how the galaxy is aligned with the ecliptic and how that aligns with the solstice. It just so happens that that's the solstice. Here you have Quetzalcoatl, the serpent god who lives in the heavens. His name actually means the feathered serpent, so that's an allusion to the idea that he's up in heaven. And he has a guy protruding from his head. This guy hasn't been eaten. He's willingly leaving the body because he's an avatar. He's a manifestation in human form of this great serpent god that lives in heaven. And that's in fact why Cortez was able to pull one over in Montezuma so easily, because Montezuma was actually anticipating a man coming from another place to set a new age into motion, to actually come and set into motion a golden age. It's the same sort of idea that the Freemasons have of moving from out of one order into a next order. And here, this is from the book of Revelation, and it said that this tail is sweeping 1/3 of the stars from heaven. Well, 1/3 of anything from 100% is 33.33. And we know that 33.33 on the Earth in degrees is 2,012 miles, 0.9, to get really specific. That puts you right in the ballpark of this. Same date. Oh, we got a lot of connections. Serpents, heavenly serpents, time and space. And the dragon motif is kind of strange because it keeps talking about this red dragon, a big red one. It's rose-colored. Of course, there's a lot of information in that just suggesting Mars, but the actual word dragon from Greek, drakion, means to look or watch. And these grays have actually called themselves watchers. Those channeling them say they have.